This video is brought to you by the lovely guys over at Robotoys. For all your Hasbro, Takara, third-party and knockoff desires, Robotoys has you covered. For 10% off, use the code DRLOCK 10% off at the checkout. Now on to today's diagnosis. So a little bit of history on Toyworld. Toyworld is one of the oldest third-party companies around, along with Fans Project, Fans Toys, and Mastermind Creations. They did come out a little bit later in comparison to those, but they were one of the first to jump in on the whole let's make full figures instead of upgrade kits phase. When Iron Factory and DX9 kicked off, they never really touched Legends. They were mainly focusing on Chug and Masterpiece, and their figures were a little bit flawed. That is until they brought on the designers who designed their Constructor figure. And there was a falling out between the company. Allegedly, they didn't compensate the designers enough, and they decided to go off and form their own company. But given some of the petty actions of Zeta, who was the new company that the designers formed, have done in recent years, well, I'm starting to doubt that claim. I'm not saying that's not true, but call it a hunch. I think something's up. Whatever the case is, Toyworld decided to bring on new designers, who then started working on a few new projects, mainly the Movieverse and the Legends lineup. They decided to ditch third-party G1 Masterpiece entirely. Their Legends lineup hasn't been that big. So far, we've only got one figure, with a few coming in the future. But for now, bloody hell, what a figure it is. Okay, what the f***? How are they getting this amazing deco right here with all the licensed or illegally licensed logos? Like Jesus Christ, are you looking at this? Marlboro, Lancia Marlboro, all of the markings on the side here. Like, this is copyright infringement to the highest degree, something not even Takara was able to do. And I f***ing love it. Just the detail on this thing is amazing. Now, many people will say, oh, but the base mold isn't sculpted that well. Well, yes it is, but that's not the point. But you shouldn't be focusing on just the paint. The paint just accentuates the sculpt. Well, the paint is great. I'm gonna say it right now. The paint makes this figure what it is. This figure wouldn't be that great if it wasn't for the paint. I mean, it is still pretty darn good, but that makes it look really good. So what do we have here for exhaust? Well, you've got a pretty cool G1 car. I'm not really sure of the name. I think it's called a Lancia. I'm not really sure. But yeah, the paint makes it look amazing. You've got white paint, you've got red paint, all the windows are painted blue, you've got these little vehicle mode sections poking out here that I think actually make it look really, really nice. And tampos all over the bloody thing. Just so many tampos. Like, if you just want exhaust in car mode to display on your shelf, you don't need to get the Prime Wheeljack version and then paint it up. No, you can just get this guy because, by God, this looks lovely. But the sculpted detail isn't something to scoff at as well. Lovely sculpted detail on the side, lovely sculpted detail on the roof, lovely sculpted detail at the front, pinned wheels with extra paint there. Oh, getting back to the paint because the paint's so bloody amazing. Yes, I know, I just can't stop talking about the paint because, by God, it really makes this figure shine. The flaws of the vehicle mode? Well, okay, I guess there's one flaw for the vehicle mode, although that applies to both modes. And that's the guns. They're supposed to peg together like so for the weapon mode, but once they peg together, they're not coming apart, ever, so I'm just going to leave that to the side there. But you do get some regular weapon storage just by pegging that on the top there. It's bits of a tight fit, but it gets the job done enough, and it looks bloody ridiculous. But hey, at least they included weapon storage. Lovely touch. And for your size comparisons, yeah, he is pretty well sized actually. Here he is next to a standard Legion figure, a standard Legends figure, a standard Siege Micromaster, a not so standard Lego minifigure, and Crumbs. Now I am told that this version mimics the Masterpiece version quite well, although I've never actually handled the Masterpiece version in person. So I can't really, say for that. Oh, I forgot to mention, lovely blue paint at the front and a nice red stripe around the entire section. God, I just am constantly finding painted details on this thing. But regardless, transformation, it is still pretty fun whether it's a Masterpiece ripoff or not. What you want to do is untab this front section, then you take this double hinge back here and peg that there. Untab the legs and use these double hinges around there, like so. Then you've got ball joints at the feet to get them into place. This whole section folds outwards, and these two bits fold backwards. Untab the fists, and these little side panels fold 90 degrees. That will allow you to bring out the arms and rotate the whole thing into place, like so. You bring out these to the sides, just 90 degrees, because then you need to get that back into place and this whole thing back there. These bits then fold into the back there, and then when it's partially down, then you can fold up these sections here. That pegs into the back there and locks the whole torso into position. And then finally you get the arms into place. And wow, he is pretty good in his robot mode. Now don't get me wrong, he's not perfect, especially compared to the amazing vehicle mode we just got. He might seem a little underwhelming to some people, but personally I don't really mind him. He does have a few issues which I'll get into, but overall he's a pretty handsome little robot mode. Minimal kibble, decent articulation, a bit lacking in some areas. But, you know, he cleans up well enough. He manages to represent the character with some lovely sculpted detail. It does the job. Yes, the highlight of this figure is the vehicle mode, which is done exceptionally well. But that's not to say the robot mode's bad. I love how you've got these lovely blue spikes at the back here. I'm not sure if that mimics the original Diaclone version or not, but the way that they pop out is simply exquisite. The wheels on the arms are a little bit distracting, and wow, these arms are very, very small. Like, especially these forearms, the proportions are a bit whack there. But overall, it's pretty nice. If I had to complain about one thing, and that's an actual real issue, the head has a nasty habit of popping off just randomly, and during transformation that's actually quite annoying. The ball joint is there, so it's nice that it's ball jointed and not pegged in like the Magic Square offerings, but they could have made the tolerances on that a little bit better. Also, the articulation's a little bit underwhelming, I guess. I mean, yeah, you do get a ball-jointed head, and you do get ball joints here. Nice ball joint here that only gets 90 degrees, but because it's so small, it kind of looks a bit gimped. Now, I've seen much worse before, but yeah, they could have had longer ones there. No waist swivel, bit of a bummer, but given the transformation understandable. Ball-jointed hips, but no thigh swivel. Like, that's actually pretty disappointing. Nice knee bends, though, and a nice ball joint here that acts as a pivot, and also an ankle tilt, so, you know, great articulation there. Just no thigh swivel, though. That's a bit of an oversight, I will admit. Oh, and finally, I guess he also has weapons. One of them pegs into the side here, pretty simple, and the other goes in his hand, also pretty simple. And now, for the final time, size comparisons with a standard Legion figure, a standard Legends figure, and thank God this is the last time I need to do this because I'm actually sick of transforming Sea Spray here, a standard Siege Micromaster, a not-so-standard LEGO minifigure, and Crumbs. So Toyworld Waste Gas is a perfect representation of current Toyworld. Their engineering isn't the best in the business. It's not terrible, don't get me wrong, it's just kind of average. Still good, but in terms of what third party's producing at the moment, it is pretty average. However, when it comes to their sculpt and paintwork, they are second to none. The fact that they had the sheer audacity to cover this in licensed logos clearly shows how little of a fuck they give. And I know some people will say, oh yeah, the base figure's not that good, it's only the paint that's doing that. But paint is one of the most important factors when it comes to whether a Transformer is good or not. I mean, look at Freedom Leader. It's probably not going to have the most crazy transformation in the world, but the sculpt work and paint work are almost on the level of the 3A design, which is why everyone wants it. So to discount this guy's paint is discounting the entire figure itself, and I don't feel that's worth it. This is one of the best Legends figures that has come out this year, simply because of its paint work. And the fact that the transformation is also pretty fun as well. But still, if this had a thigh swivel, this would pretty much be perfect. That's the only gripe I really have with this figure. In terms of exhausts on the market, nothing compares to this. Not even the Takara, not even the Iron Factory, simply because they had the sheer balls to go and do all of this, and it really paid off. And if you'd like to get one yourself, I believe they are still available for purchase over on RoboToys, today's sponsor. You can use the code DrLock 10% off at the checkout to get 10% off any single order. It's one order only, so I'd recommend you save it for a rather large purchase, because then you can use it on multiple items. They specialize in Hasbro, Takara, third-party, and knockoffs, so you got a really large selection to choose from. That's where I got this guy from. He was one of the first unboxings I ever did, and I will admit the box was a little bit plain, but oh, the figure definitely made up for it. Hell, I'll take plain brown cardboard boxes if this is the quality of the figure we're going to get inside any day. And that just leaves one more review left for the entire marathon. And as last year, I'm not going to tell you what it is, because we're not going forwards, we're going back. Back to the beginning. Back prior to Iron Factory, and I wouldn't want to spoil the surprise.